comes to us from the Vision Sciences Division of the SUNY College of Optometry, visually represented right here. At the Backus lab, he studies cue recruitment. I just cued him to come up here, I guess. A form of associative learning in human perception. And in addition to publishing dozens of papers on various types of perception, Dr. Backus has received major grants from the National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health, and the Human Frontier Science Program. And he promises to stimulate our senses and open the doors of perception.
And this is my plan for our evening together. Our plan is a little bit of intro. I'm going to talk about why perception is inference. And then we're going to look at the brain and perception, look at some ways to fool neural mechanisms. If we have time, we'll do an interlude on just what is perception. This kind of gets philosophical a bit. I'll tell you a bit about the research that we're doing in my lab, where we teach people what to see. And we'll finish up with just a little bit about consciousness, perception, and emotion. So starting off, this is where I work. All right, so what do we mean when we say perception is inference? The first thing I want to show you is this really funny illusion. Here you can see what we've got. It's a funny object, and it's kind of all clapping like this. What I'm going to do is turn it into a concave shape, just like so. This is concave, right? I can put my finger into it. Now, if you take a look at it, we'll show it around. What you should see is a box. Does it look like a convex box? If you don't see it as a box, close one eye. And it's kind of rotating funny, right? It's rotating the opposite from my hand. Right. Is there anybody who does not see this illusion? This direction. So, okay, there it is. And you want to see it as a box. Close one eye if necessary. Okay? And once again, here's what's really here. Right? Why did your brain do that? Why did your brain do that? Well, I think if you look carefully, you can see there's some thin lines which are actually close to you when the object is in the illusory conformation. And there's some little circles which are close to you. What's your brain do with little objects? It interprets them as far. On the retinal image, something smaller is assumed to be farther. So that's one example of what we mean by perception is a process of inference. And your brain made a guess as to what was there. You may know consciously what's there. Your brain, your visual system, your perceptual system decided on its own, autonomously, what to deliver up to consciousness, right? And it was something different from what you knew explicitly. Perspective cues are not valid in that object, right? That violates the normal laws of perspective, and it suckers our brains in. This idea about unconscious inference is a really old one. It goes all the way back to Ptolemy, 2nd century of the Christian era. And there he is, Claudius Ptolemy from Alexandria. He was wrong, you'll remember, about what happens with the earth and the sun. However, he actually was right about one thing. He said, if an object is subtending a particular visual angle, if it's a certain size at the eye, if you want to know how big it is in the world, you have to know how far away it is from you. That idea goes all the way back to Ptolemy. Much more recently, unconscious inference was promoted by Hermann von Helmholtz. Helmholtz measured the speed of conduction in neuronal axons and is famous for applying Fourier analysis to hearing and showing that the cochlea actually does a decomposition of sound into different frequencies. Here's what he says. The general rule determining the ideas of vision that are formed whenever an impression is made on the eye, with or without the aid of optical instruments, is that such objects are always imagined as being present in the field of vision as would have to be there in order to produce the same impression on the nervous mechanism, the eyes being used under ordinary normal conditions. So what you see is the thing that normally would have created those retinal images. This cube, the thing that normally would have created the retinal images, is a box. And what's a brain to do, right? You give it a certain pattern of activity on the retina. It's the same for the real object and the fake object. Why wouldn't it think that there's a real object there? Okay. Let's take another example. Are you looking at a person who's 20 feet tall? Do I look like I'm 20 feet tall? Yeah? Okay. I haven't had my beer yet, so... Okay. Illusions in the real world really are rare. And it's a pretty good guess that what you're seeing is a person about 5'10" with a hand attached to them, and the hand is in front of this screen. But is it not possible that I am 20 feet tall and actually way back behind the screen, and there's a hole cut in that screen, perfectly revealing my outline, so that you can see just me through that hole? Well, yeah, okay, that's physically possible. I could do that. I could make that with modern technology. I could probably make a physical hole that changes just to reveal me through it, and if I were 20 feet tall, you'd see just me. What would I look like? I'd look like what you see now, right? And this business about illusions in the real world being rare is only because our visual systems are really good at making inferences, and the real world supports those inferences. The real world is such a consistent place that you don't usually get it wrong if you have a really good statistical computer in your brain, and you do. Okay. Right, then there is some kind of an exception to this idea that our brains are pretty good at statistical inference, and that is a case of somebody who has dementia. A person with Alzheimer's disease, at some point, they may start confusing a shadow on the floor with a hole and be reluctant to step on a shadow because their perceptual system is no longer making proper inferences.